You are joining Making a Difference with Melissa Clark, a new show that shares the compelling stories and voices of well-known and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Enjoy our guests, call in, or just listen to be inspired. For this show was made with you in mind. Please join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our special guests. And you can listen to our recast at www.melissaclarkshow.com.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us here on Making a Difference. I'm Melissa Billy Clark. Holly Francis is coming up on her 10-year recovery after Guillain Barre Syndrome, also known as GBS. It's a rare autoimmunity disorder that left her trapped in her body with excruciating pain and paralysis. Take a look.
Spell it out. R-A-I-R-I.
I've watched that video over and over again to learn about Holly, and then getting to know her, it makes me feel so sad to know what she went through, but she's such a trooper. We're so happy to have her on this show today. If you'd like to see the full video, please head over to Holly's YouTube channel, Holly After GBS. Her story is incredible. It's filled with triumph, and we're just so glad that she's here today to go in detail of what she went through. She'll also be featured in our winter's edition of Preferred Health Magazine. Please head over to www.preferredhealthmagazine.com and subscribe. Holly, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you on. I've been watching your videos this past week, I want to get to know you so I could interview you properly, because what you went through was such a traumatic experience. But we're just so happy to have you here, and we're going to have you in Preferred Health Magazine. So thank you so much for being with us. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I am very appreciative of, thank you for having me on the show as well. It's great awareness for Guillain Barre Syndrome and what I've gone through. And yeah, I'm just pleased to be a part of the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you for pronouncing it, because it is a French name. We call it GBS, but it is a acute polyneuropathy which rapidly damages peripheral nerves. It is extremely rare, within 1 to 2 cases per 100,000 people worldwide. And in 2010, you were pregnant with your first child, baby Casey, and she was born in 2011. I'm going to leave it up to you to tell us what happened 2 weeks after you gave birth.
So like you said, it was in 2011, I was pregnant, and it was with my now ex-husband, but we were preparing for our baby, and life was so happy. It was my first child, so I was so excited to give birth, and I'd wanted to be a mother my entire life. And pregnancy went great. I felt great, and there was no complications or anything. I did give birth via C-section in January 26th of 2011, and baby Casey was so healthy and perfect. And I just loved being a mom immediately. Like I said, it was something I wanted since I was little. And we were at home and we were enjoying life. And I was looking forward to my time at home and getting to know my daughter and getting to know what she liked. And I was just so excited to spend that next year together. I'm in Canada, so we get a year off together. So I was just looking forward to that time and that bonding time. And I had all these plans in my head of what we were going to do for our first year. And then everything just changed, and it happened so quickly. So what started first was a strange tingle in my fingertip. And it felt like I'd burnt myself or something, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And it was mild, so I didn't think anything of it. And then not even about 2 hours later, I was having pain in my neck. So it was just in the back of my neck, and I was rubbing my neck and thinking, I don't know what's wrong, and I don't know why my pain is almost getting worse. So as the minutes went by, like that's how quickly it was happening, the pain would get worse and worse. And I was wondering what the heck I did to my neck. And so I just rested and kind of tried to ignore it, and then ended up taking pain medication, and it just didn't get any better. And the pain got so bad. And it was probably about 8 o'clock at night, I was struggling to walk up the stairs. My legs just felt so heavy and weak, and I just wasn't sure what was going on. So I'm thinking, well, I've got tingling in my fingers and I've got a weird pain in my neck, and I'm kind of having trouble walking. So I'm thinking it's a pinched nerve. And I Googled it, and that's what it tells me. Yep, you have a pinched nerve. And I actually went to a doctor quickly. I went to a Medi Center, and the doctor told me, yeah, you probably do have a pinched nerve. You just need to take some medication and go home, and you'll be fine in the morning, type of thing. So in the morning, I go back home, and at 3 a.m, I woke up to nurse my daughter. She woke up crying, and I went to stand up, and I fell to my knees. I could no longer stand anymore. Wow. And the pain was just unbearable still in my neck, and the meds, nothing had helped. And so finally I went, okay, something's not right. If this is a pinched nerve, then it's much worse than I think. So I should probably go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and I remember I had my ex drop me off at the doors, because I was like, I won't be long, just drop me off. You go home, take the baby back home. She doesn't need to be in the hospital, and I'll just call you in a couple hours. Well, I didn't leave the hospital for 5 months. So walking through those doors, that was the last time that I would step foot for 5 months. So I got into the hospital, and everything just progressed very quickly. By the time I saw a doctor, I could barely walk. I had very little strength left in my hands, and that's when they told me, we have a feeling this is a rare disorder called Guillain Barre Syndrome. We don't know how bad this is going to get. We're going to monitor it. We're going to just admit you to the hospital and see, and we're going to give you some treatment, and hopefully that you'll be better in a few days, and we'll just see what happens. And of course, I just continued to deteriorate. And within 3 days, I was completely paralyzed. I could no longer breathe on my own. I was put on a ventilator, in ICU, on life support. And I woke up, basically felt like I was in a coma. And it was a very dark time for a very long time. So I thought my life was over, and I felt like I was like on life support. I felt like I wasn't going to make it out alive. And I felt like my life as a mother that I just become was over. And everyone kept telling me, well, Guillain-Barré it's a rare illness, but you can recover from it and you can get better. So you have to hold on to hope, and we just have to trust that you're going to get better. And I tried, and I tried really hard, but the pain was so severe. And the emotional pain was even worse, because I'm watching my family members hold my daughter, and they're holding her above my bed. And I'm trying to reach out to touch her, but I can't touch her. And I'm trying to say I love you, but with the tube in my throat, I couldn't speak at all. So it was just such a dark time. And I remember just thinking, like, I'm never going to get out of this. And why should I have this will to live if I'm not ever going to make it out alive? But eventually, over time, I did start to show signs of improvement. So whether the pain would be a little bit better some days, or just certain things would show signs of improvement. And I found hope in those moments. I also found strength in my family as well that kept fighting for me and telling me that you're going to make it through this, and the doctors as well. And then, of course, my daughter, telling myself I have to get better for her. And even though I felt like I wasn't going to, I wanted to so badly. I wanted to be there for her first birthday and get to experience all these milestones that I was looking forward to so much. So it was very hard, but I did push through those awful days. And I spent almost 3 months in ICU, completely paralyzed, unable to move, unable to talk, unable to do really anything. And I felt like I was trapped in my body and I was going through excruciating pain. But over time, I started to improve, and the paralysis very slowly started to fade. So it first started in my fingertip, kind of where that first symptom was, and it started to fade. And then I regained movement in my hands and then in my arms. And I was still mostly paralyzed, but I was able to start moving things. And I saw this glimmer of hope, and it just really pushed me. Okay, well, like if I'm starting to get better, then I have to fight. I have to fight to get back to my daughter. So I was released from the ICU after 3 months, and I learned how to breathe on my own again, which was probably the hardest part of my entire journey. Practicing off that ventilator for minutes at a time and struggling to breathe, having to go back on, and then the next day doing it again for a couple minutes and increasing it by seconds. And I remember at the time thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. How can I breathe on my own? This is so challenging. But over time, it's kind of snowballed and things started to improve. And then eventually I went from 12 hours to 24 to 72. And that's when they took out the trach from my throat, and I could breathe on my own. And I think that was a defining moment for me, because I really did deem it impossible to learn how to breathe on my own. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. And so when I accomplished that goal, it really sparked a fire in me it just made me realize that not everything is impossible, and that we have so much more in us that we don't realize. And so it was like, okay, well, if I can do that, then I can do anything. And I started to push myself, and I was moved to another ward in the hospital, and I started regaining my strength, and I started to learn how to hold cutlery and how to feed myself, how to drink from a cup. And then eventually my legs started getting stronger. I had a physio team coming in with me every single day and strengthening my muscles and pushing against them with my feet. And then eventually I learned how to walk again. And so it started with just standing, and it felt like breathing as well. It was so difficult. And I thought, am I actually going to be able to do this one day? But then it snowballed. And over time, I could walk a few extra steps. And then I was walking with a walker at first, and then with a cane. And after almost 6 months, I was finally able to go home, and I returned home to my daughter. She was almost 6 months old when I got home. So I missed a huge portion of her life. But I just fought so hard to get back to her. And eventually I did, through physiotherapy, learn how to walk on my own completely, and have had an incredible recovery since.
That makes me so happy. I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted you to speak. I wanted to hear your story, because I've watched your videos, and like everybody else, you had so many people view your story.
Yes.
And I wanted to just give you that time to speak, and thank you so much for telling us. When you talk about it now, you go back. I remember you mouthed inside of the hospital, you're like, I'm in so much pain. Can you describe that pain that you were in?
So the pain that I was in, it was nerve pain that I was dealing with, because the nerves were being inflamed through the GBS. So it felt like it was like a burning, throbbing, aching pain throughout my entire body, but more specifically in certain areas of my body. So my neck and my back. And it was just like this severe throbbing, like I had been run over by a bus. And then anytime somebody touched me, it felt like they were stabbing me or punching me or anything, just tiny little movements. I couldn't even have sheets on my bed, because sheets felt like sandpaper to my skin. So that's just how hypersensitive my skin was, because of the inflammation in my nerves.
And what you said, you were trapped inside of your body. felt like you were trapped inside of your body. Did you talk to yourself? Because you could only really speak to yourself, right? As far as inside of your mind. So what were you saying to yourself? And can I ask if, did you have faith in anything at the time, God or whatever you believe in?
Yes, absolutely. I think for a long time I went through a lot of anger because I've always been a very spiritual person. I've always believed in God, and I've always believed in the power of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that for those first several, probably month, I would say, I was very angry with God because I felt like was being punished, or I'd done something wrong and I didn't understand what I'd done to deserve this, especially after I was looking forward to giving birth and having that time with my daughter. So I was very angry for a long time, and I actually refused to pray for some time because I was so upset. Of course, my family did for me, and I'm very grateful for that. Like I said, they were my strength when I couldn't be strong. So over time, I did find it back though, and I found it whenever I had my family fighting for me, or doctors, or whenever I saw my baby girl. I did have to have that inner dialogue and really fight for myself.
How are you feeling now? If you were to talk to God right now, what would you say to him?
Oh, it's crazy. I would say thank you for everything I've gone through. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. I look back as my experience with GBS as one of the best things to ever happen to me. It
Wow.
changed my life completely, 180 degrees. It just changed my view on the world. It changed my relationship with my daughter. It just made everything so different, and it put me on a new path in life, and it's made me find my passion.
You were going through with GBS. Did anything ever happen? Did you feel like a miracle? You know how some people, they're laying in a coma and, they saw a light or something. Did any of that happen to you at all?
Not necessarily like that. I did have an experience though that was quite profound, in that it was a very dark time, and it was a time where I was almost not believing again that I was going to get better, and I was dealing with pain. And this was, I think, almost probably 2.5 months in. So again, trapped in that same room, and my daughter's getting older, and I'm watching her grow around me, and so it was just hard to keep going. And I tried. And we had a doctor come in to tell me, he did a test on me to see the regeneration in my nerves and to see if there was any signs of anything improving. And when he came in, he actually had really bad news. And he told us, things don't look good. We don't see anything happening. And in our professional opinion, it will probably be at least 2 years before you leave the hospital and before you walk again. And that's if you walk again.
Right.
And I was devastated, of course. But I don't know what it was about me at that point, because I had seen signs of improvement before, and I had that hope and faith. And in my head, I was thinking, no, like, this can't be right. I'm just starting to get better, and I don't want to believe this.
Right.
And that day was actually the first time that I did pray again. And I remember I prayed and I said, please, God, let me walk before my daughter daughter walks. That's all I wanted. And it was not even, I think, 4 hours later that my mom, she used to always do physiotherapy on my limbs, just making sure that they were keeping limber, and she was moving them around and everything. And she always asked me, just try pushing, just pretend like you're moving them. And she did that every day. And this one day she said it, and she's like, did you feel that? And it was like a flicker in my thigh muscle, and my thigh started moving again. And it was literally within hours. So that was kind of a miracle for us.
Wow. I love this. I love this so much. Do people die? Do they perish from this?
Yes, they can. It's very rare as well. So it's only about 5% of cases can pass away. And generally it's from complications related to breathing. Of course, like I was able to get to a hospital very quickly and on a ventilator. But if you are somewhere that you're not able to get to somewhere quick enough, then of course there can be complications that way. Or if you have any complications like heart attacks, that sort of thing as well. So, but it is quite rare.
I saw when in the video, can I ask you who found this? Did you make a video and somebody found it and it went viral? Because literally one video had like 4 point something million people.
Yes.
And you had so much support from strangers.
Yes. So how it happened is my mom actually videotaped me when I was in the hospital. And it's because she had seen someone else who had videotaped their journey of GBS. And our nurses had got in touch with this person. And this person actually came to visit me in the hospital. And he had recovered completely. And so we had watched the video and stuff. And he had given us a lot of hope because he'd recovered completely. And he'd gone through exactly what I did.
Right.
And he had said, I made my video and it just really helped to motivate me to get me where I am today. And so my mom videotaped me. And at the time, I remember being very upset about it and not wanting the camera in my face.
Right.
But looking back, it ended up again being one of the best things to happen to me if I wouldn't have had those videos. And those videos helped me a lot throughout my journey on those really hard days where I wasn't believing that I was getting better. My family would rewind videos and show me from those early days in ICU when I was really struggling to stay alive. And they would remind me how far I'd come. And then after my recovery and after I was doing so well and I finally put all the videos together and I made a video because I just thought I was so inspiring that I could go from where I went to and to where I was now. And so I just wanted to bring awareness to Guillain Barre. I knew that there was other people that would be diagnosed with this disorder. And when they are laying in a hospital bed thinking that their life is over, I wanted to show them that there is life after GBS. And even through those dark days and the days that you think you can't possibly go on, there is hope to hold on to, that you will recover.
Within those videos, there's a part where you are sticking your tongue out at your daughter and she's looking up at these stars. And when I tell you, when I saw that, I had tears. I felt the love and the bond between you both. Do you ever go back with her now? Because how old is she now?
She is almost 10 years old. So we're coming up to my 10-year anniversary. It'll be in February is my diagnosis. So.
Oh my God. Do you show her that video?
So she's seen the video since I made it when she was 2 years old, and she was with me when we were making it. And yeah, so she's seen the video. She knows everything about obviously what's happened to me. She knows pretty much a lot of details, and she's been through it all, and she's seen me through the years, obviously, and she's seen me talk with other people about it and my advocacy within the GBS community as well, and talking with other people. It does bring back some hard memories for her, even though like obviously she doesn't remember, but she's still just knows that that was a time that we weren't able to have together. And so it does kind of bring her back some bad memories.
Can this happen again to someone who had GBS?
It can. It's very rare again. I know rare doesn't really mean anything to us when we've had it because that's what happened in the first place, but it is quite rare. Our immune systems just aren't the same. And so that's what happens, right? It's an autoimmune disorder where our body incorrectly attacks the nerves after something. It's some sort of trigger. So any sort of trigger could re-trigger it again. I choose not to let that worry me or affect me. I find that life is so short and I just live my life to the fullest, and I just try not to stress over that.
So the $1 million question is, would you have another child?
So I chose not to. I'm now in a blended family as well with my fiance and his 2 children. And when we got together, there was that question of, would we want to have more children? And I think if he wouldn't have had children at all, I think I would have, because I think kids are such a blessing. And I think what I went through, it was all worth it to still have that my daughter, right? So I think in the end, if he didn't have kids, yes, I would. But because he's got children, it's just not a risk that we would want to take.
Okay, so you would have been open to it. You would have went through that all. I mean, God forbid. I'm just saying, you would have risked going through that all over again to bring another life into this world, and that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Now, you had the support of your family, and you did mention that your ex-husband now, but he was with you throughout the whole time. Tell us what the importance is of a support when you're going through that from your spouse, family, siblings.
It was so important. And I remember hearing a story about a woman that had GBS in the same hospital, and she was a young woman and she didn't have a support system. And so she went through it alone, and it broke my heart. And I just think it's so important that you've got somebody fighting for you on those days that you feel like you can't. You almost need as well that motivation and that inspiration of other people. And as well, just when people are sending you messages, and like people from all over the world were messaging my family because it was on the news as well. And people were just devastated because I was so young. I was only 26 at the time, and I'd just given birth. So it was quite a big news story, and people were donating stuff to us and just giving us stuff. And we just felt the love so much, and just the power of prayers and love and strength just from people all over the world. But having somebody there with me was key. So my ex-husband, and then my mother as well, she was there. They never left my side. And I don't know if I would have been able to get through without them.
Well, now you're giving back to your audience and people, because you have a YouTube channel, Holly After GBS. And it's a wonderful, and you're a workout gal too. I mean, you got these muscles and everything, you got some body on you. God bless. But yeah, you help out so many people with your videos, and you get a lot of viewers. You discuss your setbacks and your flare-ups that you have till this day. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after Guillain Barre Syndrome, you don't just go back to normal. Some people are left with residuals. Most people are left with fatigue and pain, which is what I deal with. Other people are left with actual weakness. Some people are left in wheelchairs or using walkers or canes. So it's something that really opened my eyes that Guillain Barre, even though it's rare, it could be anybody on the street. If somebody's using a wheelchair, that could be why. And not everyone has an amazing recovery the way that I did. I was very fortunate. But I do, like you said, deal with some residuals now, and it's fatigue flare-ups mostly, as well as a little bit of nerve pain. I'm very fortunate that I'm very active, and that's really helped me manage them. But it is a struggle sometimes, having to find that balance and recognizing that sometimes I do feel like I'm 80 years old in the body of a 36-year-old now, and just really reminding myself that I need to slow down and I can't push myself too hard.
Did you change your diet at all?
I did change my diet. I've always generally eaten pretty healthy, but I do find that obviously the healthier that I eat, the better I feel.
And you have a book called Happily Ever After. You wrote a book. When did you write this book?
So I actually wrote the book about a year after I'd gotten out of the hospital. And it's funny because I went back to the hospital to visit my nurses and my doctors to say hi and show off how well I was doing. And I was talking to my doctor, and we were talking about some of those first few weeks back in ICU. And he's like, "Do you remember those times?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I do remember quite a bit." And he's like, "You should write a book about what you've been through. You've been through so many things," because there was just so much that did happen within those walls of ICU that you don't really understand the world of a hospital or what it's like to be in an ICU room. And so I kind of, a light bulb kind of went off, and I went, yeah, you know what? I should write a book, because I wanted to share what I went through, and I wanted to share the dark times that I went through and the dark times that I overcame, and how I got through those hard times. And so I wrote the book, and it was just, again, just that awareness for GBS and what it does to somebody. And I wrote it pretty quickly. I wrote it within a couple of years. And by the time I was done, I was still not quite recovered. So that's what my book is about. It's basically about my journey for an entire year, from the hospital, from that first symptom until about a year out, and where I was at that time.
Did you seek counseling? Did you, after you got out of the hospital, did you feel depressed or?
I didn't seek counseling at that time. I did later on. The book was actually very therapeutic for me for writing it.
A lot of people say that.
Getting out those emotions.
Yeah.
I think I just had such a new lease on life that I was just so grateful. I felt like my life was like snatched away from me, and then I didn't think I was going to get it back, and then suddenly I did. And so I think I just had so much gratitude, and I was really happy that I was home.
Of course, you must have been so happy. I saw you with your walker and with your 2 dogs. Are they still around, those dogs?
Just one of them is.
Oh, God bless. You must have missed them so much. I mean, you probably have sympathy for the people with COVID who can't be home. And
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's people going through Guillain Barre right now that are, because of COVID, they're not allowed to have family members in the hospital. So it's very, very tragic and heartbreaking.
Wow. It's what an amazing story that you have. And we're just so thankful that you're here to share it with us. I wanted to ask you, because in your book, you talk about your journey with GBS. For somebody that has, let's just say, paralysis, and what advice would you give to them? You know, they can't walk ever again. You know, they don't have the disease that you had at the time. But, you know, what advice would you give to them during their time?
I would tell them to try to find the gifts within tragedy. So there's something sometimes you have to dig really deep to find what that is, but just what are the lessons that you can take from it that can improve your life. I would also say to people that they try to rewrite their story almost as a warrior, as somebody that's very strong, and what does their life look like? So you do kind of have this choice of going forward, what you want your life to look like, and whether you want to be bitter and angry and upset that this happened to you, but what can you do going forward with the cards that you've been dealt, and how can you find purpose in your life? So I have a friend, her name is Laura, and she was diagnosed with GBS, and she had a very severe case, and she's now a quadriplegic, and it's been about 4 or 5 years now. And she's actually found within Alberta, where I am in Canada, she's found her voice of fighting for disability rights. And she was obviously never involved with that before. So she's found a lot of purpose in her life that way.
It's very inspiring. Thank you very much. And do people call you up and you do motivational speaking for groups?
I do. Yes, I do. So along with my mother, actually, who, funny enough, she was a motivational speaker before I met her. So before I was even born. And so we got into some motivational speaking and just share our journey to just help people through whatever hard time they're going through, to remind them that you can get through this.
Tell us about Warrior Training Program that you have.
Yeah, so after I recovered, I was doing physiotherapy, and I saw just how much it improved my body. And so I stuck with it for a while. And when I got home and I was at home and I was no longer doing any physio, I knew that it was all on me, that if I wanted to continue feeling good and being in shape, that I had to do it on my own. So I took it upon myself. And that's what you've seen in the video, is me doing insanity workouts. And
that's insane, by the way.
And I really did fall in love with the way that fitness made me feel. And it really helped minimize those residual pain. It gave me more energy, and it just made me feel emotionally and mentally and physically stronger. So I stuck with it, and I got into the gym, and I started working out 3 days a week, and then 4 days a week, and then 5 days a week. And then I really did just fall in love with it. And I loved the way that it just taught me about setting goals and being disciplined. And so then I started to realize that there was a lot of people out there that didn't understand about how fitness works and just how to properly do things. And there's so much information on the internet. So I got into fitness training to be able to show other people how to get to where I get. Because I had people contacting me that had GBS, and they're saying, well, how did you get to where you are? And I wanted to tell them, but it was like, well, I don't really know. I know what I did, but I don't know the fitness side of it. So I got my certification, and then I decided to launch Warrior Training. And so what Warrior Training is an online program for people, not only with chronic illnesses, but mostly for people that have had chronic illnesses or specifically GBS. And they're just trying to get their life back, and they're just trying to regain strength, and they're trying to minimize pain and regain energy. And it's almost like between physiotherapy and a fitness class. So it's not so hard that you can't follow along, because I found so many people after they recover from GBS, there's nothing, there's either the physiotherapy or there is these hard workouts, and they would try these hard workouts and then they're exhausted and then they quit. So this is what the program is. It's showing people how to properly strength train, how to do it in an effective way, how to do it with listening to your body and not over pushing yourself.
It's a program that people attend to, right? So they can go, I think, what is the website, Holly?
The website is warriortrainingwithholly.com. So it is a 12-week program, and it's also a lot of mindset stuff. So we hop on Zoom once a week, and we talk about overcoming those challenges and how to find meaning in your life. So a lot of mindset stuff, and then the strength training stuff as well. So showing people how to properly exercise.
Very important. I like that very much. We had a chef on, and he has a rare muscular problem. And he's a chef. So he came on the show and he taught us how to, people with arthritis, how to cut properly. So, you can still do the things that you want to do. So there is life after disability. And I think it's very important what you're doing, and you're making a difference in a lot of people's lives and using your story for the greater good. We can't thank you enough for being on here, being in Preferred Health Magazine. And what is your next project?
My next project, I'm actually working on, working on a rewrite of my book. So my book, just because everything I wrote up until was just until the year, and so much has happened since then. I got into fitness, and I got into this warrior training, and I got into speaking and sharing my story, and getting involved with the GBS Foundation, where I'm meeting people in the hospital and running support groups. So just so much has happened since then. So I'm in the process of rewriting the book and getting up to date on what's happened in the last 10 years. And then just hopefully getting it out there even more, because right now I've just kind of got it in the States and Canada and not in other languages. And GBS affects people of all ages, races, all over the world.
Is there a specific race that it does affect more? It
doesn't. No,
okay.
It affects all races, even all ages. It does affect men, older gentlemen, over 60, just slightly, but otherwise it does affect everybody. I've seen people, kids as young as 2 years old, have it.
Wow. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Please head over to Holly's YouTube channel, Holly After GBS, and then you can go to hollyaftergbs.com to check out her website and get to know her better. And she's just an amazing person, and we're so thrilled to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so glad that you're okay. That's what makes, when I first spoke to you, I'm like, I'm glad that you're okay now.
Yes.
You're an inspiration. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah. Thank you.
To learn more about Holly and her story, head over to www.hollyaftergbs.com and be sure to pick up her inspiring book on Amazon.
If you have a vegan product, make your vegan claim official with the only accredited vegan trademark in the world. Visit www.beveg.com. That's www.beveg.com to apply now. Making a Difference is sponsored by Preferred Health Magazine. Please visit www.preferredhealthmagazine.com today and subscribe.